A killer sentenced to life in prison could get out soon.
He was sentenced in 1980 after state law was changed to define life in prison as a minimum of 30 years. Tomorrow, his 30 years are up. As News 13's Tim Maestas reports in tonight's special assignment, more murderers are about to ask for their freedom.
They've sat in prisons like this for years, decades.
They've been incarcerated a long time. This is a new world, a different world than when they went in.
A long list of convicted murderers who entered the state prison system just as Ronald Reagan was campaigning to win the White House.
When I opposed Medicare.
The Love Boat was at its peak, each one sentenced under a state law that took effect in 1980. Declaring that anyone sentenced to life in prison must serve at least 30 years behind bars. The law itself is now 30 years old. In 1980, what is now a meat market on Isleta Southwest was a place called the Music Box Bar. That's when then 29-year-old Rudolph Senna showed up with a gun after a fight and started shooting. 3 people were hit, one of them died. Senna was arrested in March of 1980. He was tried and convicted of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced under the state's new life imprisonment statute. Senna has spent the last several years of his sentence at the Guadalupe County Correctional Facility in Santa Rosa. He's 59 years old now, and his 30 years are up.
March 1st, Senna sat inside this video conference room at the Santa Rosa prison asking the state parole board to let him out. A week later, the parole board informed Senna of the decision, and the decision was no.
The parole board still has jurisdiction over if that person is going to be granted parole or if they're going to have to keep serving time.
Senna was the very first to ask for parole. State Parole Board Chair Sandra Dietz was among those who decided he should stay in prison. Part of the reason was Senna's plan for adapting back into society wasn't good enough.
Did he ask to be released?
He did have a plan. We did not think it was an adequate plan at this time. It's a very difficult decision to make, because a lot of the crimes that we're looking at, including Mr. Senna's, are some of the most egregious that have been conducted in our community.
Later this year, the State Parole Board will see another 2 inmates sentenced under the 30-year life sentence statute and another 6 inmates in 2011. Among them, 51-year-old David Cheadle. He's the man who shot and killed former UNM basketball star Gabe Nava in 1980 and sexually assaulted Nava's girlfriend. His 30 years are up next year.
We have to make a decision about the public safety and also what is in the best interest of this parolee. Are we going to put them back out into a position where they're just destined to fail?
Sandra Dietz says the inmates have a lot to overcome and a lot to prove. While the 1980 statute makes an inmate eligible for release after 30 years, it in no way guarantees it. Tim Maestas, KRQE News 13.
Once their 30 years are up, inmates sentenced to life under the 1980 law are eligible for parole every 2 years. When New Mexico banned the death penalty last year, the trade-off was that killers can now be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.